I've always been the easy child. The one who didn't scream when my knees were scraped, the one who brought home straight A's without being asked, and the one who faded into the background so my mother, Elena, could shine. My mother is a woman who breathes attention. She's a local socialite, a woman whose life is curated for the camera, even when the cameras aren't rolling. For 23 years, I've been her best accessory. I've lived in the shadow of her sacrifices, a word she uses like a weapon whenever I try to assert a single ounce of independence. I spent 3 years saving for my dream trip. It wasn't just a vacation. It was my graduation gift to myself, a solo trek through the Italian countryside. I worked 2 jobs during my final year of university, skipping dinners and selling my old clothes just to afford the deposit on the boutique hotels and the flight. My mother knew this. She watched me count every penny. She even helped me pick out the leather travel journal I planned to fill with sketches. "You deserve this, Chloe," she'd tell me, her voice dripping with a sweetness that I now realize was laced with venom. "You've always been so responsible. Not like your brother." My brother, Julian, is the golden child who can do no wrong, despite doing everything wrong. He's 26, unemployed, and has a gambling debt that my mother quietly clears every 6 months. I didn't care. I just wanted my 2 weeks of freedom. I wanted to wake up in a place where no one knew my name and no one expected me to manage their emotional outbursts. I wanted to breathe. I had my bags packed 3 days early. My passport was in my bedside drawer, tucked inside a silk sleeve. I felt lighter than I ever had in my life. The morning of my flight, I woke up at 5 a.m., my heart racing with excitement. I went to the kitchen to make coffee, expecting to find the house quiet. Instead, I found my mother sitting at the island, her laptop open and a glass of wine in her hand. At 5 in the morning, she didn't look up when I entered. The air in the room felt heavy, stagnant. I reached for my mug, but her hand shot out and gripped my wrist. Her grip was cold. That was the moment everything changed. I saw the look in her eyes, not guilt, but a terrifying sort of triumph. I looked at her screen. It was a confirmation email. Not for my flight, but for a cancellation. My heart dropped into my stomach. I felt the blood drain from my face so fast, I thought I might faint. "What did you do?" I whispered. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. She took a slow sip of her wine and finally looked at me. "Julian needed the money, Chloe. He's in trouble again. Real trouble this time. I had to get the refunds for the bookings. It was the only way." I stared at her, unable to process the words. "That was my money," I said, my voice rising. "I worked for that. I earned it. You had no right to log into my accounts." She stood up then, towering over me with that practiced maternal authority that used to make me shrink. "I am your mother. Everything you have is because of me. You're being selfish. It's just a trip. Your brother's life is at stake. How can you be so cold?" I felt invisible. I felt like a ghost in my own home, a bank account she could drain whenever her favorite child stumbled. "I trusted you," I said, the words catching in my throat. I looked at the packed suitcase in the hallway. It looked pathetic now, a monument to a dream she had slaughtered without a second thought. She just sighed, as if my pain was an inconvenience to her morning. "Don't be dramatic. We'll go to the spa next weekend. My treat." She patted my cheek with a hand that felt like ice. I didn't move. I didn't cry. Something inside me, the part of me that had always tried to please her, simply snapped. The easy child died in that kitchen at 5:15 a.m. The betrayal wasn't just about the money. It was the realization that I was never a person to her. I was an insurance policy. I walked back to my room and closed the door. I sat on the edge of my bed and listened to her humming in the kitchen, probably already planning how she would explain my change of plans to her friends. She would make herself the hero, the mother who helped her daughter realize that family comes first. I felt a cold, sharp clarity wash over me. She thought I wouldn't fight back. She thought I would just cry, wait for my next paycheck, and keep playing my role. I stayed in my room for hours, pretending to sleep while my mind raced. I heard her leave around noon to meet her ladies' club for lunch. She was wearing her favorite silk suit, the one she bought for her upcoming influence trip to Paris. That was her big dream. A week in France, filming content for her growing social media following, paid for by a local travel agency she had charmed into a partnership. It was her ticket to the next level of local fame. She had been talking about it for months. Her passport was kept in the small safe in her office. She never changed the code. It was her birthday. I walked into her office. My hands were shaking, but my heart was steady. I punched in the numbers. 0-6-1-2. The safe clicked open. There it was. The navy blue booklet that represented her freedom, her vanity, and her future. I picked it up. It felt heavy with the weight of her ego. I didn't just want my money back. I wanted her to feel the exact moment the floor drops out from under you. I wanted her to know what it felt like to have your horizon snatched away by someone who claims to love you. I didn't take her money. I didn't trash her room. I simply took the passport. I tucked it into the lining of my own suitcase, the one she thought I wouldn't be using. Then, I went to work on the second part of my plan. I knew Julian wasn't in real trouble. I knew exactly where he was, at a luxury resort 3 hours away, posting discreet photos of expensive cocktails on a private Instagram account I had found months ago. He wasn't being threatened. He was being funded. And I was the one paying for the tab. When my mother returned from lunch, she was glowing. She didn't even apologize again. She just asked if I could help her pick out which shoes to pack for Paris. I looked at her and smiled. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, acting like the broken, submissive daughter she expected. "It's okay, Mom," I said softly. "I understand. Family is everything." She beamed at me, relieved that the unpleasantness was over. She had no idea that I was currently documenting every single transaction she had made from my account, every forged signature, and every lie. The next 3 days were a masterclass in psychological warfare. I was the perfect daughter. I cooked dinner. I helped her pack her suitcases, minus the passport, of course, and I listened to her talk about how Paris was going to change her life. Every time she mentioned the trip, I felt a surge of adrenaline. She was so confident. She was so sure of her power over me. She never even checked her safe. Why would she? She thought I was broken. She thought I was under her thumb. The night before her flight, she held a small bon voyage party. All her friends were there, sipping champagne and praising her for being such a strong, independent woman. I stood in the corner, serving hors d'oeuvres, playing the part of the dutiful assistant. Julian was there too, looking smug, wearing a new watch that I knew my refunded flight money had paid for. He caught my eye and winked. He thought he had won. He thought I was just the cow he could milk whenever he ran dry. "To Paris," my mother toasted, raising her glass high. The room erupted in cheers. I raised my glass too. To the truth, I thought. I had already sent the emails. I had sent the screenshots of her illegal access to my bank accounts to the travel agency sponsoring her trip. I had sent the evidence of Julian's trouble to the creditors he was actually dodging. And I had booked a one-way ticket to London for the following morning, using the last of my emergency savings. Money she didn't know I had hidden in a separate physical cash box. The morning of her departure was chaos. She was running around, barking orders, making sure her makeup was perfect for the airport aesthetic photos she wanted to take. I stood by the door, my own suitcase already in the trunk of my car. "Where's my passport, Chloe?" she yelled from the office. I can't find it in the safe. I walked slowly into the room. She was frantic, throwing papers everywhere. That's strange, I said, my voice calm and low. Maybe Julian took it. You know how he is with important documents. The color drained from her face. Julian wouldn't. He's in the car already. Check the safe again. I stood there, watching her crumble. The realization began to dawn on her that something was very, very wrong. I checked it, Mom. It's empty, just like my bank account. She froze. She turned to look at me, and for the first time in my life, she looked afraid of me. What did you do? She hissed. I did what you taught me, I replied. I put myself first. She lunged toward me, but I stepped back. The travel agency called. By the way, I added, checking my watch. They saw the bank statements I sent. They don't want to be associated with financial elder abuse, or in this case, parental theft. Your partnership is canceled. The Paris trip is over. She let out a scream of pure, unadulterated rage, a sound that didn't fit the perfect persona she had built. She looked like a monster. And finally, I wasn't afraid of the monster anymore. Give it to me, she shrieked, realization hitting her that I must have it. You're ruining my life. After everything I've done for you. I pulled the passport from my pocket and held it up. For a second, her eyes lit up with hope. Then, I walked over to the shredder she used for her business documents. I didn't even hesitate. I fed the blue booklet into the machine. The sound of the blades grinding the thick paper was the most beautiful music I had ever heard. She collapsed onto her desk, sobbing. It wasn't the sob of a grieving mother. It was the sob of a defeated narcissist. She had lost her trip, her reputation, and her control. Julian came running in, hearing the noise. What's going on? We're going to be late. I looked at him, the brother I had bailed out a dozen times. The party's over, Julian. Mom can't pay your debts anymore, and I'm not your ATM. I walked past him, my head held high. I drove to the airport in silence. My phone was blowing up with texts, insults from Julian, pleas and threats from my mother. I didn't read them. I blocked their numbers as I pulled into the terminal. I had no furniture, no home to go back to, and only a few $1,000s to my name. But as I walked toward the gate, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. I wasn't the easy child anymore. I was a person. I looked at the departures board. London, Rome, Tokyo. The world was suddenly huge, and for the first time, I wasn't viewing it through the lens of someone else's expectations. My mother thought she could cancel my life to fund her illusions, but all she did was teach me how to survive without her. She'll spend the next few months trying to explain to her friends why she's still in town, while I'll be watching the sunrise over a city that doesn't require me to be small. Sometimes losing your family is the price of finding yourself.